Good afternoon, Hannah. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, John. How are you?
Not bad at all, thank you. Really excited to, have you participate in our CTO News Thursday vlog series. And I can appreciate you've got a busy schedule, and it's just great that you've made time to, talk a bit about your history, your career, and learning curve. So really excited. Let me hand over to you, please, and please can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Hannah Marshall. I am the Chief Technology Officer for Learning Curve Group, and I've been at Learning Curve for just over 13 months now, so still fairly new, but yeah.
Amazing. No, good, good, excellent, brilliant. So, can you tell me, please, a bit about your military career, plus the environment that got you into working in technology?
Yeah, so at the age of 18, I decided to join the Royal Navy as a meteorologist and oceanographer, which sounds far more exciting than it actually is. And it was just lots of data gathering and lots of calculations and analysing data. So I spent about 6-7 years doing that work and kind of using that to analyse and forecast kind of data patterns and look at how kind of like provided weather forecasts for pilots to go flying and on board ship, and then looking at the sea and providing oceanography data to kind of to the ship's captain and things like that. So it was very data orientated, but quite early on, and I probably didn't realise at the time, like some of the technology we use is quite advanced. And I was talking to someone the other day about how I joined the Navy in 1999, so that you can probably work out how old I am now. That I remember going to the meteorological office and having dual screens in '99, and then leaving that kind of environment and coming out, that there were people in environments that didn't work with two screens at all, and it was a very alien idea to have more than one screen to work from. So yes, it was quite interesting to work in that kind of environment, and a forward-thinking environment, kind of in the meteorological space.
Absolutely. Do you know, thanks for sharing, Hannah. I think we're quite fortunate to have had, one or two sort of military background chief technology officers like yourselves participate in our vlog. And it's always interesting where you sort of talk about sort of the journey that you've gone through and how it's sort of similar to some of the other conversations I've had of particular conversations. A chap by the name of Tommy Gardner, who is the CTO at HP Federal, and they help sort of US government with regards to education, etc. And he's got a sort of military background, and so at some stage I'll introduce you to him. I'm sure you'll be able to have an informing conversation about.
That'd be good.
Absolutely, excellent. So, what has been your journey, your career journey to date? After the military and prior to joining Learning Curve.
So I left the Navy in 2008 and kind of took a job in education, so private training provider, based in Newcastle, and completely different. Well, I thought actually completely different at the time, and I kind of got into like contract management, so private contract for training, and kind of looking at training contracts. And quickly I became they realised I was quite good at data. So I went and worked in their kind of qualifications area and kind of managed processes and put in new processes and collected data and made sure data was correct. And then from there, I moved to Newcastle College, which is now Newcastle College Group. And I had to sit a data test at the time for this job. And I went and did this data test, and I was like, I've never seen the data before, never seen the data sets. And I kind of passed the exam or passed the test. And I was like, oh, and they said, you're very good at data. Like, you didn't know that data. And I said, but you can easily see the trends and patterns. And I think it was at that point I realized that I've got quite a data logical mind, and I could understand trends and patterns in data. So I realized I had this real transferable skill that, yes, weather data was totally different to education data, but you can quickly see patterns if you kind of think if you're that way inclined. So I moved into kind of Newcastle College Group and started off in the looking after the MI data for students, and then progressed through looking at kind of where I could use my skills, so such as process improvement, data analyst kind of roles, and looking at that, because the education sector is quite complex when it comes to funding rules and making sure that the data, the collection requirements and audit compliance. So it's making sure you have all that tied in. So I kind of ended up in a lot of data process improvement roles throughout my career there, and I spent over a decade there. in various roles, gained promotion, and it was in 2019 I became the director of IT there, having only been in IT since 2017. So it's quite a quick move from data processing and process automation or process improvement to then becoming full director of IT for a national college group at the time, which was 2,500 staff and about 50,000 students. And then in 2022 moved to Learning Curve Group.
Brilliant. Wow, that's impressive. Absolutely impressive. You know, I think you speak to any CTO and they'll say all roads leads to data. And it's just impressive to see how that's transitioned in your environment. And so absolutely commendable. And it's just great to see that, you know, from, you know, whether it be sort of the, you know, sort of getting into the nitty gritty of data and then sort of expanding out, and that being sort of the recognition as to your capability to understand data, to look at different models, whether it be in various different environments, and then obviously to land your role at Learning Curve, sorry. So very impressive, and you should be commended. So it's really good to see.
Yeah, I always tell everyone that data is my first love, but technology is now my passion, and the two together is so powerful. It really is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I used to love just getting lost in the data sets. I could spend hours looking at data, and I don't get to do it so much anymore, which is a real shame. But yeah, I'm a bit of a data geek at heart. So
that's all right. Do you know, we've got another environment which is called CTO Confessions, and we had an interview with a chap by the name of Ian Gordon. Now, Ian Gordon was the head of data, was the ex-head of data at Highways England. And he did quite an informative podcast called All Roads Leads to Data. So, you know, if you ever get a chance, you know, it's worth a listen. But I'm sure once again, you'll be able to have a good conversation with him because he's all about data. And if you follow him on LinkedIn, he's always showing and sharing various different analysis of data and how it could be sort of manipulated, etc. So that's quite an interesting individual to follow. So what is Learning Curve and who are your customers and your partners?
Yeah, so Learning Curve Group is a national education specialist, and we have over 60 sites across the UK, and we support employers, we support learners, and we kind of just support people with education needs. So whether that's kind of getting back into the workforce after being unemployed for a while, whether that's upskilling, improving confidence, improving skills in the workforce. So we support learners in kind of all different aspects of learning.
Brilliant. That's really great to hear and see. And I think, so I've got a passion for social housing, and it'll just, you know, you can just see the synergies there. Not saying that, you know, that's not available to, you know, those who live in that social housing environment. There's a greater awareness to bring, you know, the Learning Curve group into that social housing space. And you never know, there might be some, you know, CTOs and sort of digital leaders working in, you know, housing associations, local authorities that may want to consider working with you in some way, shape, or form, and collaborating and providing that as an open, accessible, source of courses for their tenants. You never know; they may have passions for, you know, technology and learning, etc. Why not offer it to them? So anyway, that's like another conversation to be had. But
yeah, and we do offer, we do have different kind of delivery models. So we deliver online learning, we deliver in local areas, in like community hubs. We deliver in classroom environments, apprenticeships. We're currently working on the new Multiply initiative that's running, which is to improve the confidence of adults with maths. There's a real initiative behind that. So we try to look at how we can really support learners and really transform their lives through learning.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and thanks for sharing. And that really leads us to the next question, which is, can you talk about the digital transformation that you led during the pandemic? Specifically, when we initially talked, you talked about tenancy and domain migration. If you could just, you know, elaborate briefly on that, if that's possible, please.
Yeah, so I wasn't at Learning Curve at that point. Learning Curve Group, I was with Newcastle College Group then.
Okay.
But what kind of the journey went on was we had multiple. We'd kind of merged and acquired different colleges, and as part of that, we obviously had multiple domains and multiple Microsoft tenancies. So prior to the pandemic, we had kind of put forward an ambitious plan to move everyone to one domain and one tenancy. And And prior to the pandemic, it was kind of, we need to do it, but no one, I think, really understood outside of the technology space what that actually meant to the business. It was a dispersed business. So again, it was 7 colleges across the UK. When the pandemic hit and we all went to Teams, then everyone started appearing as guests in Teams. It was like, well, why am I a guest? I'm part of the group. And then we explained, and they're like, right, well, can you move the migration forward? And I was like, it doesn't work. It doesn't quite work like that. But yeah, I think they all wanted it tomorrow. But we worked really hard over the year, in a year during the pandemic, to migrate them to one domain and one tenancy, which is no mean feat when everyone's in lockdown. And I remember saying to the project lead at the time, when we got towards the end, I said, could you imagine if I'd have told you before the pandemic that you were going to sit in your bedroom and do this migration, this migration of all these tenancies? And he was like, no, we'd have to be on site and doing it there. So it really, we kind of re-looked at it from a different angle, and it kind of, we just moved forward and continued to move forward with it. And the pandemic, I think, really helped us sell some of the projects we wanted to do. So we moved to the Microsoft 365 suite. We kind of looked at, we moved to Power BI, we moved to Teams telephony. We did a lot in the Microsoft space as well. To add real value to an organisation that's so dispersed, and to be able to really kind of work in a hybrid fashion, and to also be able to support colleagues from one end of the country to the other, and deliver really good training, and deliver good lessons to our learners. So it was a really good. It was a really, if you ask my team now, I mean, they obviously don't work with me anymore, but it was a tough 2 years. So we had to move everyone remote working, but then we undertook some really ambitious projects. But the journey we went on was just phenomenal, really.
Yeah.
Had such a great team to support that.
Brilliant.
And without them, we couldn't have done it. The team made the project. So
absolutely. Yeah. No, I hear you. Fantastic. And can you share anything, that you've been involved with over the past, say, 13 months, working at Learning Curve, that could be sort of a good example of successful projects or areas of workings that you've delivered?
Well, it's no surprise that, being a data person, that we did a data transformation project, and we're through the first phase of that. So it was about May. So obviously I've come into a new business, and I think I'd worked in education before, but both education establishments are very different. But some of the core is still the same. So I had to do a bit of kind of analysis to make sure that my ideas would be sound for Learning Curve Group. And it was about May time that I put forward my digital transformation plan, which everyone always says to me, well, how long is it? And I'm like, never ending. It's never ending. It's always going to be, we're always going to be transforming. Yeah. But I did put forward a data transformation. So we would warehouse the data. We had got a lot of systems. So we needed to warehouse the data, to harness that in Azure, and then obviously we moved to Power BI. So we're through the first phase of that and on to the second phase. And we do have kind of a finish point for this project, although we'll continue like business as usual, and we'll continue to update it and make sure that it works. But it's been amazing, really, actually. So I was talking to Brenda, our CEO, the other day, and I always knew that this would change the way Learning Curve Group would work with data, but I didn't realise how quickly the impact would happen. So we've got examples of people taking that data now and using it in a very insightful way to manage their operational areas and to drive business performance. Now, I thought that would take a bit of time, but it's pretty much happened quite quickly, and it's really amazing. Like, honestly, I'm so impressed. Like, it's just, yeah, and it makes me feel proud that we put that together. And again, I've built an incredible team to support that, and we do it internally. So we did outsource at the beginning to help us get us to where we are, but now we're working internally, we're warehousing data, doing the data modeling. It's fantastic, and we're seeing real results from that.
Amazing, really amazing. And once again, it's just a great sort of evidence of your skills in terms of, seeing the problem and then seeing how best to literally get the data to the right person at the right time in the right environment. So and it's obviously been recognised by your CEO as well. So really great example to share.
I mean, I do think I'm very lucky. Our CEO, she's very data driven, and she loves it. So now she can access all the Power BI reports, and she can see things really quickly and take quick action on those as well. And yeah, it's really good to have that buy-in from the board level, to make sure that they're driving the project forward as well. That's been really great.
Brilliant, excellent. And once again, that sort of is a great segue into my next question, which is, what's your leadership style? And can you talk a bit more about the importance of why and what and the value?
So I thought a lot about this one because I think it varies depending on kind of who I'm working with. But I would say overall, I think I'm an authentic leader.
Yeah.
So someone always said to me about, you seem to get a lot of buy-in for what you want to do. And does anyone ever say no to you? Does anyone ever and I'm like, well, they do, but I'm always very measured about what I do. I'm very honest. I'm a team player. So my team see me in meetings. I'm in stand-up. I go to stand-ups with my team.
Okay.
I spend time with them. We have project meetings. They ring me if they've got problems. I'm all about them, and I'm all about making sure they have what they need to be able to succeed in what they do. I don't sit back and just like wait for things to happen. I am really hands-on, and I think that really helps my team know that I'm there for them, and that they can come to me if they need, and they know that I'm a real human at the end of the day, and that I'm not a robot. But I am a very visible CTO in the business, and I think that works.
Absolutely. I think visibility is absolutely key, and sort of having that sort of open door policy where your team members can reach you, not at all given times, but at relevant times where they absolutely need your assistance.
Yeah, and I know I even go to sit with them some days, and we were talking about this. I talked about this with another leader, and they said, "Do they not find it odd that you sit with them?" And I said, "Well, not really, because it's something I've always done, and I've always been like that. That I will go and sit and have a chat with them, find out what motivates them, find out what their career aspirations are, talk about my journey, talk about kind of day-to-day things as well. So it's about getting to know them as a person and understanding kind of what motivates them to do the job they do."
Absolutely.
Because then you can drive their performance as well.
Yeah. It sounds as though that the Learning Curve Group is a people's sort of company that just happens to be working in a tech space and serving, providing tech solutions. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is all about the learners. Everything we do is to kind of transform lives through learning. And when you come in, there is this real sense of passion for that, regardless of where you work, whether you're actually in front of the learner or whether you are like us sat in the background providing a service. We always consider how will this impact the learner, and that's really important to me. And I've grown the team. When I arrived at Learning Curve, there was only 9 of us. Now there's I think there's 27 of us now, if I'm thinking, and I've grown that over 12 months. Really important to me that I have people in the team that kind of understand the impact of what we do, and understand that this isn't about tech. Well, it is about tech, but it's about how this tech is going to support our learners, even if it's indirectly. So you might be delivering something that's supporting the teaching member of staff to manage something, but that will take them away from so they could be thinking of this. Sorry, I've got caught out there. So they could be having to do loads of admin work, and you develop something that stops them, that speeds up that process, that gives them more time to spend in the classroom, which is where they need to be. So it's thinking about everything we do and how does it kind of impact that learner. And that's where we need to be. And then obviously, if you followed us on social media, you'll know that we are like a purple family, and we're called Purple People, which people might think is a bit gimmicky.
No,
but actually it's not at all. Like, it's absolutely true. So if you come, like I've interviewed a lot of people, and obviously the ones that come into the team, they always reflect and say, when you talk about it, you think, oh, is it just something they say? And then you start here and you're like, no, this is exactly what they mean. It feels like a proper family. And yeah, so it's like the Purple People of Learning Curve Group.
Brilliant. Excellent. That's really, I'll make sure that is spread far and wide, the people persons of learning group, or the learning group. So absolutely.
Purple People. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So are there any sort of developments in the pipeline at Learning Curve that you can talk about specifically or particularly around sort of commercials aspects, so whether it be partnerships that you can potentially elaborate on for our audience?
So we are developing our own products in-house, which we do sell externally. So we have a learning platform which is called eAssessor Pro, and what we do on there is we put our learning content on there. and so people can sign up for courses on it, but then we do have that product for others to use in their own colleges, and they can get their learners on that product as well, which is great, and is a real great kind of asset to the organisation. We've just spent quite a lot of money redeveloping that.
Okay.
That's kind of a new platform, and will continue to improve over time. So we work in a very iterative fashion, which I think most tech companies do now, is get things out quickly, get quicker feedback, and then move on to the next element. So that's kind of way we work. We're also just developing our careers platform called Careers Pro. We haven't launched yet, but will soon be launched, and that is to really help learners identify kind of where they might want to progress into their career. And it's based on like career matching, and brings out kind of the qualities that you would want out of a career, and it will take you through, and it will tell you how to get there, what courses you might need to do, what kind of the salary you might be, the longevity of that career, things like that. So it's really kind of tapping into different elements of the market to really give some useful information to potential candidates about what jobs they might want to get into.
Brilliant. It sounds as though as well that it may touch upon using the likes of machine learning or potentially AI, if not immediately, but at some stage where you can absolutely better predict, what that potential learner can absolutely receive, whether it be from a salary perspective or type of role based on environments that they would like to sort of be involved with. So yeah, that could be very, very beneficial for a lot of people.
Yeah, and we see that, and we think that it does touch on that kind of machine learning AI strand. So we're kind of looking at how we make that more powerful, following the first release. But I think yes, and it will really help young people or even adults kind of think about careers they might not have thought of, particularly when it looks around qualities about you as a person, or even transferable skills. So when I talked back right at the beginning, I'd worked in data for like 6-7 years, and I had never thought I would end up back in data, and particularly in another field that does data. And I think I was 18 years old, and no one told me that at some point I might be able to transfer my skills and work in all different areas of data. So I think it's really interesting to see that develop and understand how your transferable skills could be used somewhere else.
Absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely agreed. Brilliant. Okay. How do you go ensuring that learning is everything to your team in order for them to deliver and maximize the learning experience delivered by your systems and applications that are developed?
Yeah, so my team are fully integrated into the business. So I spoke a bit earlier about visibility, and that goes across my whole team. So when I arrived, my team had a small dev team and the IT team, and they sat in 2 offices with the door shut, and nobody really went in to say hello. Now they sit in an open plan office with people coming in and out all day, which I think sometimes might get on their nerves because we have a service desk as well. But actually, it's really important that they understand the business, and they understand what we do. So my developers, for instance, they go with my business analysts to requirements gathering sessions. They go to UAT sessions. They go and sit in and talk to the business. I am happy for them to go and sit with operational directors to understand kind of what they need out of it. It's really about them being empowered to go out and really understand what we do. I don't think, and I mean, I've only ever worked in technology in education, and I don't think I could do, or we could do what we do without knowing what the business needs, and particularly understanding what that learner needs, because it's so different depending on the funding stream. It can be different on the type of provision we're delivering. So what might work for one, like for flexible learning where we deliver online, that might not work in a classroom environment. So it's about understanding that and really getting to understand kind of how education works as a business. That's kind of how I play it. Now, it's not to everyone's liking now, and I get that. Like some people who work in technology just like to sit in the background and like to just get on and code, but my team are not like that, and the team that I've grown are very much people, and they get out there and talk and discuss. Just really important to me.
Absolutely. In essence, you're empowering your team to be enablers, regardless of their roles. And that means getting out and sitting with whoever they need to speak to and have meetings with in order for them to deliver the outcomes that they're tasked with delivering. So that's really great to see, sort of the whether it be the autonomy that you've given to your teams.
Yeah, and they get a real sense of pride from that. So they go out and meet and they sell the solutions. And this is what I say to people, that I am only as good as my team. Yes, I'll work with them, we'll drive them, and I'll make sure we've got plans in place. But they sit in front of our exec and they talk about the things they've developed. They talk about the passion they have. Next week we've got our exec board, and I've got two of my MI report writers who've been working on Power BI. They're going to come and demo to exec board what they've done. So It's not me saying I've done this, it's what they've done. Like, yes, I've given them, I've said, yes, we've got this, I've got this signed off, we're going to do it, given them the brief. But some of the stuff they're producing is just phenomenal. And I want them to realise, I want everyone to realise it's them that do it, like the hard work day in, day out. So I think it's really important for them, and it's really important for them to grow as a person to do that. So I've had it where I've had graduate developers who will present an idea to me or do stuff, and whilst that might be quite nerve-wracking, I think it's really important that they learn those skills if they wish to progress on in their career and understand what it's like to present to someone so senior in an organisation, and again realise that we're all human, like we are all human, and just want to, and that learning curve is want the best for our learners. So
absolutely agreed. It's top down, bottom up, top down. There's that channel of communication, and that's really good to see. And that's that, because it sort of gets rid of barriers, and it sort of, like, as you say, builds, whether it be authority, but also sort of presence where needed in an organisation. So I 100% agree with you. Brilliant. So this leads on to our next question, which is, how do you create high-performing teams that further enable your organizations, and how do you get the best out of your team? I think you touched on this in a previous sort of question, but it'd be great if you could just elaborate a bit more slightly on building high-performing teams, please.
Yeah, so I think it all starts with recruitment, and when I look to recruit new staff or grow teams, I always look for the person. So people say, what about the technical? Like, do they have to? And I'm like, well, of course they have to have technical skills, but there's always the ability to learn. And I think that if you think to my career, I didn't join IT until 2017, and I had no background in server infrastructure, networking, cyber, service desk. My career had fully been data until that point, but I've learned loads. I've learned absolutely learned a phenomenal amount from experts around me. So when I look to employ team members, I think about how will they fit into the environment we're in. So if I think about the last 12 months, thinking about how will they fit into learning curve group, are they those people that are going to be out there driving the business forward, like being a business enabler, like you talked about? And I think for me, that's really key, making sure that they will fit into that team, and they are kind of willing to get out there and really push the boundaries of technology and show the business the art of the possible. So that's kind of one. The other bit is empowerment. So we employ a lot of very skilled members of the team, and I'm not prescriptive about how they deliver projects. I mean, we have to deliver projects and we have timescales, but they go off and they deliver stuff. They come back and show me. I'm generally blown away by some of the things they've done, and we talk about it, and I let them do that, and I let them go off, and they might come and say, can I do this? And I go, yeah, let's have a go at that. But generally it's about really letting them be the experts that they are in their field, because I can't manage every project. I'd love to be in everything, but I can't, and I need to empower them to be able to do that work.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agreed. I think we see that with some of the clients that we work with. They are absolutely, fully fledged CTOs, but as you just stated quite rightly, they can't do everything, and they need to give a bit of autonomy to members of their team so that they can flourish and grow in their roles. And obviously, it's a bit of like training a trainer sort of model, where they can then train other members of their team. And obviously, you're overseeing, or CTO is overseeing the whole environment, but it's given autonomy to various enablers within their team. So
yeah, and I think as well, for me, it's about really growing that team ethos across our team. So if I look at my kind of team, so I've got like first line, second line support engineers, quite a small one because we've got an MSP. I've got project people who do mergers acquisition work, or might do large scale IT projects. I've got software developers, and then I've got kind of MI systems and report writers who are mainly SQL. and they all have kind of a different line manager, kind of head of role. But I'm always keen that from the beginning, I've said to them all that we work together, and I'm not one of those people, I don't accept it's not my job. And if anyone, I would never, so no one ever says that in our team, because that's not how we roll. Like it is like when things need doing, we all pull together. You learn from each other. Like the sharing of knowledge across the teams is phenomenal, and with that, we've seen some great outputs from projects. So it's really great. And when we do our team meetings, so this month our team meeting is solely focused on software development. So all our software devs are going to demonstrate to the rest of the team what they've been delivering. Last month we had a bit on Cyber Essentials Plus and how we recertify for that. So it's really important for me that the team share across everybody across the team. So whilst they're working in their area, they need to understand what else is happening.
Absolutely. No, agreed. Excellent. So, Hannah, what do you do to stay current with technology?
So I do lots of various things. So we knowledge share across the group, as I've said. So we talk about new technologies and consider that. I kind of scour the websites and see what's coming on. Obviously, we are a Microsoft house, so I'll read a lot of the Microsoft what Microsoft community stuff, like what's coming next and what's up for development. I mean, I was so interested. I watched a little webinar about Microsoft Copilot at the end of last week. I got really excited. I rushed across to my developers. I was like, "Oh, have you heard about Microsoft Copilot?" They're like, "How have you heard that? They've only just announced it." And I was like, "Well, I'm just really interested in anything like that." So yeah, I think it's really hard. I think things change so quickly in technology that it is quite hard to keep up. But one thing I'm really keen on is that that as a team, they get to spend like an hour or two learning about kind of new technologies coming out or thinking about what might happen in the future. Because as I said, people always ask me, when's the digital transformation going to be complete? And it's never going to be complete. And you've got to think, as a CTO, I've got to think like that what I pitched at the digital transformation session last year to the board, we're already a year in, and I'm already thinking about, well, is it still the right thing for next year? So I did have like a 3-year plan, but by the time you get into end of year 1, you're into year 2, you're kind of having to rethink things because the business changes or it's grown considerably, and the technology advances now so quickly that I think, so it's about making sure that you are keeping on top of that and making sure you do take time to consider that. I think at this level, I also get invited to a lot of kind of local conferences to go and learn about new advances, kind of particularly around cybersecurity seems to be quite a hot topic. I seem to get invited to a lot of them, or moving to cloud seems to be those sorts of topics. But yeah, so anywhere I can, and I like to learn from other people who are in industry, and to go listen to how they've tackled things as well. So how they might have approached projects, and consider that, because you can't be expert in everything. And I think if people believe that, then I think they need to have another think, because I think actually there'll always be something that someone's done that you haven't done yet or haven't tried, or you're considering trying, they've done it, they've got the t-shirt, and they can tell you all the pitfalls with that as well as all the good things. So
absolutely agreed. So what everything that you said is absolutely resonating, because those are similar conversations that we've had with other CTOs who share the same approach. You can't be I mean, the lay of the land is so vast when it comes to technology and ways of working that, you've just got to rely on other people. And also you've got to, it's advice to read up on stuff and just see whether, certain environments make sense for the products that you're working on. So absolutely agreed. Brilliant. And actually, after you, please.
No, I was going to say that when I took the role of director of IT, and actually before I even applied, I was doubting myself. I was like, how on earth? Like, I've not been in IT that long. And someone said to me, like, you've got a team of experts around you. You don't need to know everything, but what you don't know, you can learn. And I now, someone will say something, and I'll go on search engines and find out, and go, all right, now I know a bit more, and I know that. And it's about just being curious and like wanting to know. And I mean, I think that's one of the questions that sometimes I think I can see my team's face drop when I say, but why? So they'll say, this is really great. And I go, but why? And if you don't ask those questions, you'll never get better. And I always say, why? Why do we need this? Why do you want to do that? Yeah. Why is it going to have an impact? Regardless of the cost, because I always think, well, if you can justify it, then sometimes you do have to pay for things, but there has to be a why, and it has to work for your business, and it has to drive something in your business.
Yeah.
Whether that be cost savings or learner experience or something like that. So I think it is about the why, and that's where you'll get curious and you'll go and research and learn more.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. Brilliant. Okay, and that once again leads us to the next question, which is, which technology most interests you?
I think at the moment it would be kind of AI. I think with the move to ChatGPT, which I always think is a bit of a mouthful, but I think that there, I think, is really interesting to follow. I'm not an AI expert by any stretch of the imagination, but we keep talking about it within our team about what's it going to do and how is it going to impact teaching and learning, particularly because that's the sector I work in, and thinking about kind of things like authenticity when it comes to submitting assignments, and how do you use it for good and things like that. So, and is it going to replace roles, and is it going to replace humans, and is it going to do this? There's all these questions that are coming out, and then watching obviously the Microsoft Copilot webinar last week and thinking about, well, actually that could save some staff quite a good amount of time, like putting together agendas or kind of thinking about how to recap over Teams when you've come join a meeting late and things like that. So I think it's about how do we, in our business, I think for me as a technology leader at the moment, is how is AI going to impact what we do, and what do I need to think about now to make sure that we're staying ahead of that curve in the learning curve group, and push that forward and support our teaching staff and support our learners. So I think that's really key for me at the moment, and it really excites me about what's coming. It just seems so powerful, and I think we just need to make sure that we use it in the right way in our kind of sector, in the education sector.
So that's really great to hear, Hannah, and I think there's some really great synergies with the conversation that we had previously with a chap by the name of Tommy Gardner, who was sort of gave a CTO News Thursday blog episode where he was talking about cyber ethics and how that comes into play, especially within the education sector. So it's you have ChatGPT absolutely gives you the autonomy to have any question answered, but then how do you ensure that it's ethically answered and enables better understanding of that supposed environment that you're trying to understand? If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's. I think I was talking to someone else about this, and for me, it's the human element that I kind of wonder how that will play into it. So the way I interact with people will be very different to when they ask a question of ChatGPT and them taking that information and using it in a way that they need, rather than me being able to explain why something may or may not work. And it's about thinking about those elements of it, and I mean, I am really excited about it, don't get me wrong, but I think that I need to, as a technology leader, need to consider how I'm going to utilize it within our sector, in the education sector.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. All right. So what is your superpower?
Oh, I'm not sure I've got a superpower. I think, I don't know if it's a superpower, but I think it's, and I don't know whether this is kind of from a military career and the way kind of you train, but it is to be a problem solver. And I mean, I don't think that is a superpower, but I think it is. I think it's really important that you're quite calm under pressure and very pragmatic. And I think as a leader, a technology leader, you have to be like that, and be able to articulate to non-technical kind of colleagues, kind of technical solutions, which probably goes back to why sometimes like people always say, does anyone ever say no to you? It's because I've got well thought out arguments and I can sell it to kind of non-tech leaders. So yes, I think I don't think it's a superpower, but I do think it's one of my strengths. That and being able to survive on very little sleep, I think is a good superpower.
Wow.
Having a 6-year-old boy and having to work in technology, because technology never stops.
Does he ask a lot of questions?
My boy.
Yeah.
Oh, my boy's got a lot of questions. He does have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
He does. He does. Brilliant. Yeah. And it's really interesting actually watching my 6-year-old grow and think about how he uses technology. And I think about, so when he moved, I remember when he moved to primary school, I had to sign an acceptable use policy for him,
Right.
and I was like, I've worked with him for a while, and I was like, he doesn't even know what acceptable use is. He doesn't really understand that. But I think, can you imagine, like when I was his age, when I was 5 years old, there would be nothing like that.
No.
And now they're having to do acceptable use of IT from such a young age because they use it all the time. So I get feedback, oh, he's been on the iPad doing this Lexia, he's been doing this app, that app, they do coding, and he really enjoys it. So I think about the journey he's going to be on. And in 20 years, what's he going to be doing and what technology will he use? And I think that's really interesting to see that.
Absolutely. Do you know, I remember when I was at school, I remember where we had like a new information technology department put into the school. It was like this brand new sort of department that's got, you know, lots of monitors, and, you know, we were playing games like Elite, you know, Space Pilot, you know, FIFA football with the cassette tapes, if you remember back in the day, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting times. And it's just like you just said, you know, it'll be interesting to see, you know, with regards to ChatGPT, where it is today, how that transpires over the next, say, 10 years. You know, that could be, not being funny, that could be a sort of a downloadable app, which it is today, but that a 7-year-old is using, you know, in some shape or form. It's very, very scary, but that's the reality of technology. And then it goes down to the, you know, to the ethical use of technology, you know.
I know. I think that's the new kind of look, the new kind of thing, isn't it? Is looking at the ethics behind it. I think that's where we're coming to now, and it seems to be more and more. And I've seen like a lot of kind of webinars popping up about the ethics of AI, and especially since ChatGPT's come in. But I think it's so funny. Like my son will come home and he'll know that I can search the information for him. So he knows I can search because he'll say, find out, I've been learning about this at school, find out about this, or can you tell me this? And so he knows he can readily get facts. And I think that's like, for him, I mean, the potential for learning is huge, isn't it, through that?
Absolutely. Used wisely and correctly, absolutely. Brilliant.
Yeah. Not big encyclopedia books we used to have as a child, and you have to find out the facts.
That's right. That's right. You know, you'd carry those around with you, you know. Especially your dictionaries, if you remember back in the day.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. So what do you do outside of work in your spare time?
Well, I spend a lot of time with my little boy, as you can imagine. He takes up a lot of my time. But I do spend quite a bit of time at the gym to keep fit. I think it's really good for my mental health as well, particularly when you've got so many high pressure projects on. And I really like eating out, so I like to try new restaurants. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
Favorite meals or favorite cuisines?
Quite normal, really. Favorite cuisine, Thai. Thai is my favorite. But I'll give anything a go. Yeah, give anything a go. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Wow, Hannah, thank you very much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, learning about your military background and how you got into IT, and the great teams that you're leading and the projects that you've delivered, you know, prior to working at Learning Curve, and obviously working at Learning Curve and the environments that you've sort of that you're managing. So, you know, it was just fantastic to learn more about you, and you know, I wish you every success in the future. Let me hand over to you, please.
Thanks, John, and thanks for having me on today. It's been great to speak to you, and hopefully it's been insightful, and hopefully maybe inspire other people to get into IT, even if it's later on in their career. As I said, I didn't start in IT and got to it quite late, but someone took a chance on me, and I think for any leaders out there, if you spot someone who might have a little bit of talent, think about taking a chance on them.
Absolutely. Thank you, and well said. 100% agreed. And I hope that resonates with our audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you.